I talk about the ready reading lesson. All right, and welcome everybody. We are now going to be talking a little bit about our ready reading lesson. Most people in class are doing pretty well with keeping up with the iReady and with doing their attendance every day. And the thing that is harder or that people tend to not do is the ready reading. And I want to encourage you, especially this week and last week. If you didn't do last week, still turn it in. I don't care. I'll take a point off or whatever. I just want you to continue practicing and using the slide decks. So what you'll notice is if I jump into somebody's assignment, like Carlitos, I'll just jump in here for you for a minute, and I'm going to use his as the example. So first of all, there's two things in your slide deck, and you'll see off to the side over here. At least this is how it shows up for me. But there's actually a PowerPoint that I want you to take a look at. And they're going to talk about two things here. And most of this is stuff we can already tell by just listening. And because we use them all the time, the pronouns, we can kind of tell when they're wrong. But every once in a while, things are tricky. And so this week we're going to look at case and perspective. And I thought it was interesting that they brought these two things together because case has to do with something is in the subjective or objective, and pronouns could be one or the other. And then there's the idea of perspective, like if you're using these pronouns, are you talking in the first person, second person, or third person? So what I liked about this little slide show here, the PowerPoint, is that it talks about both these things together. And this idea of first person, second person is something that comes up quite a bit, and we always talk about it, especially in literature. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this real quick. You can look at the whole slide deck yourself, and there's some practice things in there too. But I just wanted to make sure, and I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time like trying to get this to be in a little bit better place. It's because I'm in another student's thing. So hold on, let me see if I can. We'll just do it here. Okay, so just looking at it, subjects and objects. So remember, guys, and this doesn't have to do with pronouns, it just has to do with nouns in general, that nouns take verbs that are subjects. Now, I didn't make these slides, and I would never say nouns take verbs. I would never say that. I would say that nouns are doing the action of the verb. So they say take here, and they are subjects, okay? And nouns that do not take verbs are objects. In other words, they're receiving the action. So, example sentence, Captain Jones, there he is, waved around his saber, that's his big knife here, right? And threatened the landlubbers. I love that word, landlubber. Landlubbers are people that do not go on the sea. They know nothing about the sea. That's me. I'm a landlubber, right? I get really violently ill if I'm on the sea. It's really sad. I will never be a sailor. So Captain Jones is your subject here. Okay, it's the noun that's doing the action. What is he doing? Waving and threatening. Okay, what is he waving? His saber, and he's threatening the landlubbers. So notice how Captain Jones is the subject. There's two verbs going on. If I replaced Captain Jones, I might say he waved around his saber, right? And I might replace saber with it, especially if I'd already said saber once, right? Captain Jones waved around it and threatened the landlubbers. And you could change landlubbers to they and them and threaten them. So getting to know which pronouns come before and after the verb. In this case, they say nouns that take verbs are subjects, and nouns that do not take verbs are objects. My question is, who's doing the action? That's your subject, and it comes before the verb. The objects are going to come after the verb, and they are receiving the action. Who or what was waved at, or who or what was threatened? Okay, now if you do it with just the nouns themselves, when you look at the pronoun, right, then there's two cases. Some pronouns change form based on whether they are subjects or objects. So for example, I taught myself to skateboard because nobody else would teach me. Okay. When do you use the word I? When it's the subject of the sentence. I. You don't say me taught, right? You say I. So I and me are the first person pronouns, and they basically are saying that somebody does something or to myself. Myself is reflexive, and we'll talk about the reflexive ones next week. So I taught myself. Who did the teaching? I did. Subject verb. You don't say me taught, you say I taught. If you say me taught, you're in Tarzan land, right? You don't sound like you know English very well. All right. So you're going to use the subject pronoun. Who or what did you teach? Well, I taught myself. All right. So you could use the reflexive one or me, right? Nobody else would teach is the verb me. Okay. I'm receiving the teaching, so it's me. So watch out for those. If they come after the verb, they're usually objective. If they come before, they're usually subjective. Once again, you sound more intelligent when you use the correct pronoun case. It's really sad when people say, uh, "My teacher gave Jim and I." Wait a minute. I is a subject, right? Or I and Jim got something, or she gave I and Jim homework, right? That's just it sounds weird and it's wrong. It doesn't sound very intelligent to say them boys are coming to school, right? Them comes after the verb. So it's really important, not only just because you might get see it on a test, but it makes you sound more intelligent, makes you understand, seems like you understand English. So some of the personal pronouns that take a verb, and this is a weird way to say it, but come before the verb. They're the subject. I, we, you, he, she, they, not them. Even the guy that did the PowerPoint did it wrong. Them is not a subjective pronoun. Notice that it and you can be either subjective or objective. They don't change. When we arrived in the new country, we were bearing gifts for the natives. Okay, you're going to use subjective when you're saying we. Okay, personal pronouns that do not take verbs. Me, us, you, him, or it. Sorry, you and it. Once again, they don't change. They're the same in either case. The natives were delighted to meet us. Who was meeting, right? It was us, not we. You wouldn't say the natives were delighted to meet we, and that's because it's after the verb, right? Delighted to meet is the verb part, right? And so you would need to use us. Most of the time, you can figure these out because of how they sound. So, questions so far? Okay, I don't think anybody's questioning. So if I go back into Carlitos for a minute, it says here for this week, what I want you to do is to complete the boxes of, there's a ready reading below this. And then the first thing, watch the video and review the PowerPoint slides, right? If you're not sure what to do. All right. And I actually gave you a chart to help you do the worksheet page. So the first chart, you can see it has one more video that you can click on and watch to learn a bit more about subject and verbs, subject and object pronouns, right? How do you find those or know which ones to use? And sometimes they're pretty straightforward, okay? And sometimes they're more confusing. And mostly right here, I want you to get used to using different terms. Like last week, we were talking about antecedent is the noun that comes before the pronoun that tells you whether they're going to have like male or female, or whether or not it's plural. Like those antecedents set, the pronoun has to match that, right? But this week we're talking more about when are you using them as subjects and when are you using them as objects in the sentence. So sorry, that kind of got a little bouncy around. So to do your activity for this week, it's really simple. You're just circling, and you can use this chart right here. It tells you everything you need to know. If you are telling a first person story, I, me, we did this, like a personal narrative, your subjective pronouns will be I and we, and your objective ones will be me and us. right? So either we did things together, or I did things, or I gave it to me or us. The second person is always you. Like, you went to the store, you saw this, you did this, right? And you doesn't have a different subjective or objective. It is always you. Okay, that's second person. And third person is the he, she, they, and it. And objectively, it's him, her, them, and it. When you're telling a story in third person, he did this, she gave it to them, right? She gave her uh, pencil to him, right? So that's one reason why they're kind of teaching two things at once. They're teaching the case, which is subjective or objective, and they're teaching also this idea of who's taking of the perspective is what they call it here, the point of view. So all of slide 2 is teaching. All right, feel free to use it and to, read the examples, right? Second person, when someone is speaking for you, you feel good when you do your homework, right? So that's second person storytelling. And notice that you doesn't change whether it comes in front of or after the verb. There is no other case for it. But third person, right? You've got a couple of different ways to look at third person pronouns. All right, now, just to show you, and I'm going to do some of Carlitos's for him, so you have no excuses, Carlitos. All right, so look, guys, it says to circle whether the bolded pronoun is objective or subjective case, and whether it's first, second, or third person. Once again, you can get all these answers. All you have to do is look at the little chart here. You can flip back and forth between 2 and 3. And so on 3, it says use the information on slide 2. Just a reminder, right? This is where you can get the answers. So number 1 says, I went to the mall. I'll make this just a tad bigger just because I think it's easier to see it on the screen. Right? So number 1 says, I went to the mall. Okay? And you have to ask yourself, the I, bolded I that's underlined, is your pronoun. Okay? Is that objective or subjective? In order to figure it out, you just have to go back up here and look at the chart. So I is subjective and it's first person, right? You can tell because on the chart that's how it says subjective and first person. That makes sense. I'm telling the story, right? So I'm going to go back to number 1 and I'm going to use my little scribble here. I'm going to select line. I'm going to select scribble. And I'm going to circle it's subjective because it's the subject of the sentence, right? And according to my chart, it's subjective. And then the other one I'm going to do is the fact that this is first person. How do I know that? Because it says so in my chart. Okay, I just did number 1. How did I get those answers? Right here. It says I, that's first person. Okay, that's how I know. All right, number 2, he and she. Oh, okay. Got a double a subject there. What did they do? They bought groceries to eat for dinner. Okay. So he and she, it comes before the verb is bought, right? And if you look over here in the chart, he and she are third person, right? That's the perspective, and it's subjective case. All right. They are doing the action. They bought. So you're going to do scribble. Oops, scribble. I guess I turned it off. And you're going to do, a subjective again, but it's not first person this time. It's third person. So you click your scribble again and circle third person. Each one of these questions has 2 answers. And just to show you how it looks more pulled back, you can see that it's I is subjective first person and he and she is subjective third person. Okay, one last one on number 3. It says don't miss with them. The underlined bolded word is what we're looking at. And if you look back on 2, right, them is objective case. It's in this row and it's third person. right? It's along with he and she doing the action, not I and not you, but he and she were telling a story, right? And it comes after the verb. So you can double check on those things. And on number 3, it says, don't mess with them. Notice that with is a preposition. Whenever you have something that comes after a preposition, it's going to be in the objective case. Like, they went to the store with me, or I ran around the tree underneath it, right? Or underneath him, right? Ran on the tree underneath him. So these ones that come after the verb, right, or after a preposition, they're always objective case. How can you tell? Go back to your chart. Where is them? Oh yeah, objective, third person. I'm going to go to my scribble. It's objective. It comes after the verb, right? And it is third person. So even if you don't understand this completely right now, you're getting used to using the terms, and all the answers are right here in this little chart. Questions so far on anything about what I just said? You can type it in. You can raise your hand, and I'll recognize you. Carlitos, I just did like the first 3 for you. So no excuses. Go in there either after we finish today or come and see me, right? I have lots of time on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday now to see you guys. Don't hesitate to reach out or come see me at noon. I'll do it with you as a group. Okay? Any other questions? Then our last thing today, we are reading this week this little article about how horses can be used to support kids that have disabilities. Okay, notice how the words they're talking about here, the halter is the part that has the reins, right? It goes through there, the bit, and everything that goes back where you control the horse, that's the halter. And interactive is our word of the day. This week, we're still looking at how do we use context clues, the words around what we read, to understand. Sometimes context clues will literally define something for us, and sometimes it'll give us some really helpful hints so that we can figure it out. But don't forget, guys, words like interactive, where you have a word part like inter means to come together, right? You the internet, yes, the internet means that it's a net, it's a worldwide web of like connection. And internet means to network between and among people. It's not about pushing apart, it's about bringing together. So you can use those word parts too. All right, I know that they're talking about using the context clues, but look, use the word parts as well. Interactive is one of the words you have to know, okay? And just a reminder that it says in 1993, when Erin Livingston was just 11, she had an idea. She wanted to use horses to help kids with special needs. Along with 2 friends, she researched different programs, and with the support of the Mendocino County 4-H, Ridgewood Trail was born. And you can see there's a little 1 next to TRAIL, right? Trail is an acronym. That means that each letter stands for a word, right? Teaching, writing, as an access to independence and learning. Trail. Okay, in other words, this is a program to help kids with different kinds of needs to get their, sorry, the garbage is getting picked up here, with different kinds of disabilities to get help. So, and here's the names of the horses in her program. Freya, Kiss, Easy, Ginger, and Robin are horses with a very important job. They help kids with special needs. And some of these kids are in wheelchairs and walkers, so they might have a physical disability. Some can't talk. And some are very high energy and need to learn how to focus, right? And so these are kids that have a varying degree of disability, but they all come together and the horses help them. And this is really something that I thought was really interesting because my niece she works with a program like this. She's studying to be a physical therapist right now, but she has loved horses all of her life, and she has just volunteered her time to help kids with disabilities use horses. And there's a couple of different cool things about horses and why it is that you can interact with them. You can see in the picture, one thing that's really interesting is taking care of them. You can see he's actually grooming the horse. And this idea that just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you can't take care of something, right? And that you can have the independent ability to work with these animals who, I mean, you guys who've known me for a while know that horses and I don't mix. I mean, I even when I was young and skinny, I never got along with horses. I was always scared of them, and the few times I was on one were not happy times. So I was really glad to see that not only is my niece who does this in her town, it's also something that was started by a kid, right, in this one version. And Aaron uses games to help kids learn to communicate with horses. For example, a rope is attached to the halter of a horse, and the student holds the other end and wiggles it to make the horse back up. So, like the halter's in front of the horse, he's like, and he like backs up, and then he comes back forward to him. Okay, it's a little game. Right. Then the student wiggles it again to invite the horse back into his or her space. And on the next page, you can see that it says through interactive games, the horses help the kids learn about trust and keeping themselves safe and being sensitive to the horse's feelings and body language. This is something you can say, see the horse put his ears back. What does that mean? And I know somebody in the other class that does a lot of stuff with horses says, don't walk behind them. And some of those safety things so they can be safe and be sensitive to the horse's feelings. And if kids are loud and too full of energy, the horse may not want to come over to them. Okay, so the rest I want you to kind of read on your own. And then you can see that the first question, they kind of go in order of the story. Don't forget that the yellow boxes here tell you how to show your answer, like pull the yellow square over to cover up the letter of the right answer. And you can see it says read paragraphs 3 and 4. What's the meaning of interactive? So let's see what our choices are. Acting apart from each other. Well, we just talked about the fact that interactive is not apart, it's together. So A is definitely not right. And B says acting like each other. Or C says acting in response to each other. And D says acting politely with each other. It's interesting, like they didn't tell you that when you come to a horse, you need to bow and shake hands and say, how do you do? I mean, that's polite, but that's not exactly what they're teaching the kids, right? So I would say D is not a good answer. When you get down to it, it's either B or C. Okay, and so take a minute and type in your little chat right here. What do you think, B or C? B is acting like each other, and C is acting in response to each other. What do you think? Type in a C, a B, a C, or a B. Let's see, is anybody else paying attention? Thanks. Hey, there we go. Eliza put B. What do you think, Dreamer? C or B? All right, so B is acting like each other and or acting in response to each other. What does interactive mean? Okay, any more guesses over there? I got people asleep at the wheel here. All right, so what do you think? Looks like C is probably the answer, right? Acting in response. It doesn't mean like you're kind of mimicking. That's sort of what acting like each other is like. It's not that you're mimicking, you're learning to act in response to each other. Okay, that's probably the best thing. And then for B, you'll want to make sure that you actually have to go back. And they make you go back all the time in this program, guys. You're going to have to go back. And they want you to copy a sentence. So maybe you don't have to copy every sentence, but this might be a good one. Aaron uses games to help kids learn to communicate with horses. Communicate, interact, right? Be with the horse. So I'm going to jump down here. I guess I'll move this over because I'm in Carlitos's, let's see. Oh, acting in response. Okay, and I'm just going to copy that sentence. Oops, I lost it. What is it? Aaron uses games to help kids learn to communicate. I keep getting out of the, sorry. Shouldn't have this open twice. All right, here we go one more time. See if I can find it again. On the wrong one. Sorry. Okay, Aaron uses horses. No, I totally lost what it said. Uses games. Uses games to help kids learn to communicate. Uses games. I hate having to go back and forth, you guys. Uses games to help communicate with horses. There's other ones you could pick here, but it needs to kind of show what does interactive mean. That one on the other page also works there. Okay, and then the final one here, read this sentence from the article. Aaron uses games to help kids learn to communicate with horses. Wait a minute, I just did that. I should have just copied this, huh? Which words from paragraph 2 provide a clue to the meaning of communicate? Can't talk, need to learn, with special needs, or very high energy. Okay, from which words from paragraph 2? Okay, so the idea of high energy probably doesn't so much have to do with communicate. You're not learning the high energy with horses. You're not learning the special needs, right? Learn to need to learn with no, we're probably pretty much talking about can't talk, right? Some of these kids can't talk, right? They can't communicate with the horses. That's my guess anyway. So do the best you can on these guys. The second page is more going back and looking and trying to figure out the meaning of words. But this one has an underlining part, right? Pick a sentence to underline that answers the question. You're going to define disability. And down here, we're going to talk for just a minute about use the evidence to describe how working with horses helps build confidence in children. You'll have to go back, use some of the new words. So you'll use things like communicate, interact, and some of the other words that we used. I'm looking for at least one of those words like sensitive, right? Or communicate, or what word did they have down here? Oh, they had communicate and they had interact. So you're going to try to use a word from one of the ones up here in a couple of sentences, please, guys. These are paragraphs and they need to be in complete sentences for me. Okay. All righty. And when you're done, when like Carlitos finishes, what he's going to do is he's going to submit. And please make sure, guys, that when you go in, that you go in through the, let's see if I can find it here. Make sure you go through view assignment. Okay, please do it that way. My view assignment looks different than yours. All right, but please do view assignment because that gives you the opportunity to click in. And I've assigned everybody their own slide decks. If you start messing around with the one that is in this right here, if you click on this one, for example, you'll be messing with the template. So we've talked about this. Look, everybody's got an assigned one of these and an assigned PowerPoint. I would go ahead and make sure you take the time to look at the PowerPoint. Very helpful. Lots of little practice things so that you can get your pronoun things under control and then do the rest of the reading assignment on your slide deck. Okay, I'm going to take just a minute and I'm going to turn off my recording. You can feel free to come back and look at this recording at any time, even if you're here in class today, to get some of those answers and do your own work. Make sure you reach out to me if you need independent help. I'm available every day at noon.